Hi, I'll keep this reasonably brief. There's a new tribute album to John Denver, which, besides making money for a charity he formed when he was alive, is meant to sort of give him a little bit of rehabilitation to today's audience in much the same way as the A&M release compilation of If I Were a Carpenter did around the mid-90s for the Carpenters. And I'll just hold up the tribute album, The Music Is You, tribute to John Denver. Mm-hmm. Okay. And anyway, uh, the best way to explain John Denver for those who didn't make his acquaintance before now is to very quickly explain that there were different kinds of 1970s. For some, the 70s personified, Grateful Dead, keep the hippie dream going, etc., etc. And and you could say that the counterculture and the idea of folk music being, on the more neat, well arranged side, and not the necessarily the outspoken political, or like, say, Pete Seeger, the well, I'm going to teach you some lessons, that kind of stuff. So basically, John Denver, after serving apprenticeship with the Chad Mitchell Trio, began working as a solo artist, got signed up to RCA Records around 1969, and it took a couple of years for the breakthrough, which was a song called Take Me Home, Country Roads, in 1971 off the Poems, Prayers, and Promises album. And prior to that, as a writer, his song Leaving on a Jet Plane was a hit about 2 years earlier, 69, covered by Peter, Paul, and Mary. And to me, with John Denver, if you're going to buy or download albums, you're probably best getting things, before 1974. Like the three I would recommend would be Airy, Rocky Mountain High, and Farewell Andromeda. And the thing with John Denver was he had good taste as a writer, so I'm sure for a lot of people in that era, uh, in terms of covering other artists, that was probably the way that some people got their first taste of, like, from John Prine, Arlo Guthrie, Chris Christopherson, was through listening to the John Denver cover versions. And anyway, for better or worse, John Denver had Jerry Weintraub as a manager, and Mr. Weintraub seemed to want him to be like Mr. All-Around Entertainer. So that led to ABC specials, and I would say from like 74 onward till about 77 or 78, the albums got a bit, that I remember, things got a little bit more slick, and you have the orchestral slatherings on of Milton Oken, Bill Danoff and Taffy Nevert somewhere in there in terms of the vocals and it's at that point the price of being an all-around entertainer meant mass acceptance from the folks that like the hippie, but safe hippie, kind of like, oh, we'd like to go live in Colorado and respect the environment, and they like things like that, but they weren't. And well, you could say also that they probably were liberal slash progressive enough to not want Richard Nixon in office, but otherwise were like nice button down people, and two, because of John Denver having the clean cut persona, there were probably a few like young Christian church groups that got attracted to certain of the songs, and I can kind of remember in high school we had some assembly where somebody came and was trying to make a argument about Rocky Mountain High, that song being sort of metaphor for religious experience, seeing God, conversion, etc., etc. And anyway, the irony with John Denver career-wise was that when he got to his peak and crossed over successfully into movies in 1977 with Oh God, which was directed by Carl Reiner, and co-starred him with one of the greatest comedians who ever lived, George Burns. At that point, became a movie star, but at the same time, the records, the saturation point of the general public had been reached, and later in the 70s, even though John Denver didn't like rock, he made an attempt or two to rock out of sorts, and then he hired Larry Butler, who was a producer for Kenny Rogers when Kenny Rogers had his biggest hits, to try to have some of that sound rub off on him. And then by the mid-80s, the glasses came off, and he was trying to project himself as a sexual being. And I remember one time in 1985 turning on VH1 and seeing him sing some song to some brunette supermodel type, and basically, begging her to, sleep with him some more. And I think at that point, I think after that's when the RCA contract ended, and somewhere along the line, John Denver took greater control of his career and let Jerry Weintraub go, and with much hurt feelings, as Weintraub said in his own book. And I've not heard the later stuff that Denver did on his own label, because supposedly the songs were like really good, and I can remember one song title, The Flower That Shattered the Stone. And really, with a lot of my generation, I guess the backlash was with mass popularity and the glasses and the catchphrase, "Far out!" and stuff, that people just thought he was like, because he was like really, really sincere, and it rubbed some people as being cloying. but from the Music Is You CD that I've listened to so far, I've gotten up to the Lucinda Williams cover of This Old Guitar. I can say that the best of Denver's own songwriting holds up, and it's worth making your acquaintance with the tribute album, and definitely checking into the early albums I mentioned. So, having said that, you know, go buy and download and dig in and enjoy, and that's that's about it. Thanks for listening.